This To It lesson activity is in general activities and focuses on recording a process. Many times as teachers, we reteach the same process. By recording it, students are able to access that information anytime they need to review it. I'll be showing you how to do so using Notebook, Smart Recorder, and a document camera. So let's see how these work. I have Notebook open, and we're going to talk about recording a process. The process we're going to do is a subtraction. Typically, there's a series of written instructions to record a process. I'm going to go to my Attachment tab here and click on a link that will take me to a subtraction process. So this is an algorithm, and as you can tell, I'm not going to go through it right now, but there are steps that you can do. I'm going to scroll down to get to what the final answer is going to be, which is 36. So let me close that page, and we're back into Notebook. So that's one way of reviewing a process, but it's not recording in terms of what's actually happening. If I want to record what's happening for my students, I can choose the Properties tab over here, and I do have page recording. So what I'm going to do is start the recording and actually do the process of working out this problem. So I'm going to pick up my pen, I'm going to choose Start Recording, and I have the record button up here. As soon as I start writing, it will start recording. So what I'm going to do is, substitute the 7 for the 6, put the 1 in front of here, 8, and this is now 14. This turns into 6, and then 6, and subtract the 3 in the tens place, and we have 36. I'm going to put my pen down, and I'm going to click Stop Recording. Here, if the students want to see what I did, they can just click Play, and they'll see everything that I did. However, what they're not going to do is hear any of the instructions that I was doing. They're just going to see what it is I'm doing. So if I want to be clear about what it is that's happening, I will need to write down a lot of notes in terms of where it's going. If I want to go back to the beginning, I'll just click back to the beginning here, and it's back to that spot. So that's good if there are certain examples, but you don't hear what it is I'm doing. So another way of recording something is by using the Smart Recorder, and I can access that by going down to the Windows notification area, down to the Smart, and then clicking on Recorder. Now Recorder is going to pop up right here, and this time I'm going to use the recorder, and when I use the recorder, it's going to record not only anything that I select within this area, but it will also record my voice. Now, if your computer does not have a microphone attached to it, you will need a microphone to use. And in this case, I have a microphone that's right here. And this needs to go into your audio port, into your audio jack on your computer. If you have a laptop, you can also use the microphone that's built into the laptop. You just need to be usually within 5 feet of it in order to get a decent sound. So what I'm going to do in just a moment is select the area and actually work the problem. And this time I can talk through it. This is going to create a separate file. Whereas before, this is in one page, it is still the same Notebook page. When I use the Smart Recorder, it's going to create a separate video file. So I'm going to select the drop-down menu and record area. When I do that, as soon as I highlight my area and then I let go, it's going to start recording. So I'm going to let go. So in order to do this problem, I see that I have 4 in the ones place and 8 in the ones place on the bottom. I cannot subtract these. So I'll need to borrow from the tens place. The 7 turns into 6, and I'm going to bring the 1 over here. So this is now 14. I can subtract 8 from 14, which results in 6. And then I have 6 in the tens place, and I'm going to subtract 3 in the tens place, which would be 3 for 36. And that's how you solve that problem. Then I click Stop, and it's going to say, where do you want to save this? I'll go to my desktop, and then I'll click Save. And then it will save that file. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to minimize Smart Recorder. And let me minimize notebook so to show you what this looks like. I now have a file up here that when I double click it, it's going to open up Windows Media Player. I can also see that it's 329K. It's a small file. So when I double click it,
so in order to do this problem, I see that I have 4 in the ones place and 8 in the ones place on the bottom. I cannot subtract these. So I'll need to borrow from the tens place.
I'll stop right there for a moment. Now notice that when I was speaking, you couldn't see my hand, and you couldn't see any gestures that I was doing, nor where I was pointing to. So all you can see is the actual marks that I was making in there. And again, you just need to be aware that any gestures or inflections that you do or pointing to anything is not going to work. It will only show exactly what it is that you are writing in there.
7 turns into 6, and I'm going to bring the 1 over here. So this is now 14. I can't subtract 8 from 14, which results in 6. And then I have 6 in the tens place, and I'm going to subtract 3 in the tens place, which would be 3, or 36. And that's how you solve that problem. Then let's say.
You can also, at any time when you play it, pause it or move to any time index spot, and you can go right to that spot if you wanted to. So that's a nice thing about having it recorded in this way. In Notebook, you can go back to the beginning or play, but you don't have the exact time indexing that you do when you actually record a video file. So you can move this back and forth and repeat just the small section that you wanted to. Again, you can also have the voice in there, so as you are explaining things without writing it, the students are able to hear that also. I'm going to close this, but you can also do more than that. I have here a web page, and this is from the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives, and this is a Java application in which we have a problem that I created a problem, and I made the same one of 74 minus 38. And I can still use the Smart Recorder. I'm going to click it and bring it over here. You always want to have the Smart Recorder out of the way of what you're going to record, otherwise it will show it'll show the window in your recording. And in this case, I'm going to do the drop down and again record area. And this time I'm going to select this area. To do this problem, I have 74 minus 38, and I'm going to bring one of the 10, well, let's take a look up here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of the blocks up here, and I have 8 of them down on the bottom, and these 8 that are down on the bottom cannot, there are more of them than there are in the blue. So I'm going to bring one of the 10s over here, and if you take a look over here, there are now 6 in the 10s column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there are now 14. And so I can just click on each of these, and when I bring this down, they will start subtracting from each other. Or I can move up if I want to, because subtracting, when I go across the line from one to the other, it will eliminate them. And then I have 3 in the tens column, so I'm going to take away 10, another 10, and finally the last one, and then I wind up with my answer. And so that's how you can solve that problem. And then here I will save this one. And although this was almost a minute, this is only 700K, so the size of the file is still a decent size. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to minimize this. And I'll just play a very short snippet, not the whole thing, just to show you what that file is like. I'm going to minimize here.
In this problem, I have 74 minus 38, and I'm going to bring one of the 10, well, let's take a look.
And I'll pause that. So you see, I do have my cursor, so I can point to some things, even though I'm not activating some of those. So any program that you have, you can do Smart Recorder on. I'm going to close this again. But there are times when you actually want to be able to point to some things and actually use a paper and pencil, because that's what the students are actually going to use. So in this case, you could use a document camera. So I'm going to open up the document camera software, and I have the problem of 74 minus 38. So I'm going to I could use Smart Recorder on here to do this, or I could zoom in a little bit so we see this a little clearer. And then I could use the AverVision software in here, and I'll bring this up to show you what it looks like. I'll click on the record button, and I will tell this to save, and as soon as I save, it will start recording. Again, I have the microphone that I'm going to be using that will pick up everything that I'm saying. If you don't have a microphone attached, you will not record any sound. So I'm going to click save, and now it is recording. So I'm going to say that in order to do this problem, I'll need to subtract from the tens place and then bring the 1 over here. I now have 14, which would result in 6, and I need to subtract the 3 in the tens place from the 6 in the tens place to give me 36. Now I hit the record button again and click OK to stop the recording. I'm going to minimize, and then I'm going to bring this one over, and I'm going to double click it to show you what this looks like. This one's just over 1 meg.
And now it is recording. So I'm going to say that in order to do this problem, I'll need to subtract from the tens place. And then
you also want to remember that as you are writing, you want to make sure that since the camera is going directly on top of you, that you are mindful of that as you hold your pen and as you move your hands so that you're not covering the work. So those are just a few ways that you can use a variety of different software and hardware to record a process. Now it's time for you to get to it.